And now, from your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz. This week our special guest is Sammy Garcia, member of the Taylor County Democratic Party. Sammy, it's good to have you on the program this week. There's a lot to talk about, certainly with the Democratic National Convention in Chicago this week. You've had a chance to watch most of the DNC this week. Of course, these things go on a little late. Our news crew has felt that, certainly. Right. From Barack and Michelle Obama to comedian Kenan Thompson to the Clintons to Tim Walz, the American people heard from a lot of folks. Tell me, what would you say some of the highlights from the DNC this week?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I have had to go to bed at some point, so but I did get to watch President Biden finish his speech on Monday. I've gotten to see most of the others, and what I missed, I've went back and watched. I think what you're really seeing is the idea that when you're voting for president, it's a binary choice. You're either going to vote for Trump or Harris. I mean, you're really going to vote for that team or that team. There's not the third party stuff is just, and I'm even hearing now that may be gone too. The one quote third party that was picking up some
RFK.
Yeah, that apparently he's looking at dropping out in the next couple of days. That's what I heard. Anyway, but what I keep seeing is some people, you describe it as bashing. I describe it as describing because as far as Trump. And the reason I say that is every time that I see the former president giving any kind of speech, talking to anybody, doing anything like interviews, anything like that, he really doesn't tell us what his plans are when it comes to these policies. I keep hearing everybody question the vice president about what she plans to do with immigration, with the economy, with all these things, and asking, why aren't you giving us specific questions, answers? And well, first of all, it's only been a day or so since it was a full month since she actually became the front runner and the nominee. Mm-hmm. Well, she's answered some of those, and she'll answer more as she goes, but you got to actually give her time. What I'm seeing is everybody says, oh, it's just a bashing, that's all they're doing. And then no, what they're doing is they're showing you the difference. They're saying this versus this, because this is what your choice is. And also, reproductive freedom. I mean, the freedom theme, I'm really excited about that because it applies to so many things. It applies to our voting rights. It applies to women's health care, reproductive healthcare. It applies to education. It applies to reading books. Right. So, there's the freedom versus just a negative going backwards type of mentality. That's what I keep seeing. So it's a pretty obvious choice.
There's been a lot of criticism of Donald Trump. You would say otherwise that's just speaking the truth. Mm-hmm. At the DNC this week, Trump's camp has really encouraged him to stick to policy when going after Kamala Harris. He was saying, and the Hill reported, when can I not do that anymore? Are there any policies of this Harris-Walz administration that stick out to you and other Democrats that offer encouragement to defeating Donald Trump and J.D. Vance this November?
Are there any policies?
Yes, or is there anything that encourages Democrats, whether what they're saying or whether it be policies or anything of that nature?
Well, the way they keep talking about families and what we can do to help the working class people. People around here in a lot of places, for example, unions have gotten a bad rap over the years, growing up. Over the years, I remember I've seen that. But if you think about it, those people that have had those union jobs have done a good job, and they've committed to that. President Biden was the first president to ever stand on a union line. So, a lot of people say, oh, Sammy Garcia's just out there, he's just doing those Democratic talking points. No, that's what he did. You can go over there and show the footage where he stood at the union line. First president to ever stand on a union line. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of talking about issues that are affecting family at the kitchen table. It's okay. Say, I disagree with her. I think this policy is bad or anything like that. That's fine. But the personal attacks show how petty you are. And I'm going, When are you going to tell us what you're going to do for us? How's it going to help? Because as a small business owner, as a person whose kids are out in the world today, I'm not necessarily worried about me and my wife anymore. I'm worried about what kind of groundwork is being laid for my kids, for their opportunities. If I'm lucky enough one day to have grandkids, I've got nieces and nephews. I want their world to be as opportunistic as mine has been, but what are you going to do to help that? And right now, for example, housing, I thought that was a big deal. Some people, that was a gimmick. No, if you're looking to put a down payment on the house and somebody says that they're going to be looking to pass a bill to help with the down payment on the house, I promise you, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more with Sammy Garcia. We're talking the conservative versus progressive, the take and the reflections from the national scope, and how Sammy feels that doesn't necessarily reflect on the two sides, plus the talk of issues of immigration. That and more right here in Big Country Politics.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, welcome back to our Sunday conversation here on Big Country Politics. This week our special guest is Sammy Garcia. He's a member of the Taylor County Democratic Party. Sammy, we were talking, unpacking a lot of what's been, a few things that have been discussed this week at the DNC in Chicago. Now, the border has and will be a key issue as we get closer to November. Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar from San Antonio spoke this week saying Vice President Kamala Harris has done more to secure the border than Donald Trump. Republicans across the board would likely say perhaps that's not the case. Do you feel Democrats like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have what it takes to be tough on border protection?
I think so. I mean, when she was speaking, and she was referring to that bill. It was a bill majority written by Langford, the conservative Republican from Oklahoma. She said, if she gets that bill, she'll sign it, that same bill. So, the reason that they were ready, that they really had to make some concessions, both sides did, in order to get that bill ready to go. And President Biden had said he would sign it. It was going to help that. Now the immigration issue has little lessened because the numbers are coming down. The actual people crossing the border has dropped. It's actually the lowest it's been in the last 2 years. So she is committed to saying, I will sign that bill. There was a lot of progressives who were unhappy about that bill because they said that too much was given up in that. But the people were like, we got to do something. So I don't know what else more a person can do to say other than if somebody says, well, what is it what she'll do? Well, go read that bill, because that bill is what she said she will sign. So that's pretty straightforward. All I've heard him say is, I'm going to build a wall again. I was like, okay, yeah, we haven't tried that yet, right? Oh no, we've been through that. And I love the theme that they say, we're not going back. Because that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about. Are we going back to trying to build that wall again? Sure. To fighting these people about water rights, fighting about environmental things? Because there was a lot of that going on. You just don't build a wall across people's private property. And then what about the other ports of entry in the United States that require immigration laws that are in that bill? Mm-hmm. How's that going to affect that? So,
does it matter that there have been a record number of illegal crossings during her time as vice president? Does it matter that she hasn't necessarily visited the most southern portion of the border, such as Eagle Pass, such as Laredo, places like that? Does it matter that she hasn't these things and she hasn't done that? Okay,
so I've always wondered about that, to say, okay, so if she goes down there, and when they go down there and they go visit, all these Republicans go down there and they visit anybody. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You go down there and visit. It's an opportunity to be seen in front of cameras. That's what that is. Let's not, what is them going down to the border, what does that do for actual immigration policy? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It says, well, it could influence this. Okay, well, so are you also going to the ports of entry or all around the country? If somebody did that, if they visited every area where people are coming in one way or the other, because the immigration laws apply nationally, okay? And so she didn't visit that. So does that say, just because she didn't do what they did, that doesn't mean she wasn't involved. She actually worked a lot with the countries where those people are coming from. A lot of the migration slowing down is coming because Mexico is starting to enforce a lot of their immigration laws coming up through Central America. So that has slowed it down coming up here. So they work with other countries. When Barack Obama left office, immigration was at a 50-year low, the undocumented immigration, right? It went up under Trump. It went up a little times under Biden. It's coming back down, right? So the thing is you can't use, what I would ask the other question, what's Donald Trump gonna do to be able to say, just to visit the border, if he goes down there and does a bunch of PR stuff and has cameras around, tell me what that actually does. How does that change the law? How does that give them more resources? How does that do that? Do the bill, put it into law. That's when you find out what the actual changes actually happen. And when you have a sheriff that gets up there and says, hey, I was excited about that. The union, the border union guys, they were in support of it. They wanted it passed. They endorsed it. And then it got killed.
Last question, and you have an interesting take on this, conservative, progressive, and how it's kind of been nationalized, if you will, that's not necessarily the reflection on what a conservative or progressive is. Now, there's radicals on both sides, let's not get that twisted, but you have an interesting take on that. In about 60 seconds or less, tell us what that is, because I found that very interesting.
Well, I just don't like it when people just give you a label of either conservative or progressive. But first of all, because there are different meanings for those words nowadays. Also, are you red, are you blue, are you Republican, are you Democrat, are you conservative? I mean, what are you? And I was like, well, it takes a while to describe me. Mm-hmm. You have to look at my life history. You have to look at the type of business that I do, my family, my extended family. You have to look at a lot of different things. And so when you just say, well, is he a progressive? Well, it depends what you're talking about. There's probably some issues that I'm a progressive, but there's some stuff also that I'm a little conservative. In fact, I'll give you a little small, it's not a political deal, but my kids will tell you, if you come to my dinner table and you sit down or you go out and eat with me and you keep your hat on your head, they'll tell you in a heartbeat, take that hat off. My dad's gonna get upset. Do it that way. That's a kind of a conservative cultural thing that you grow up and you take your hat off. You don't come to the table that way. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you really are still that way? Yeah, I'm still that way. Because there's parts of me that grew up working on farms for farmers locally. I went to a conservative university at the time, but at the same time, there's parts of me that have grown. I'm not the same person I was. It's hard to put me just peg me somewhere, and I don't like that. I don't think it's fair to anybody, because a lot of times it depends on what you're talking to them about, whether or not they tell you are they conservative on issue or progressive, when they could be a little bit of both. Is it okay to be both? Yeah, we all are. Very few of us can sit there and be totally progressive or totally conservative. Very few people. I'm sure they're out there, but most of people are kind of a hybrid of a lot of different things, experiences in life, situations in their personal life, that kind of thing that cause them to do that. And then that's a good thing, because you know what? You got to work with other people that are different than you. And I've worked with other progressive. I've worked with a lot of other conservatives. And it's not about whether or not we're progressive, it's about getting the job done at hand. And a lot of people that know me see that I'm a very outspoken person. They're always a little surprised, like, you're a Democrat, really? And I was like, yeah, have been my whole life.
It's an interesting take. Sammy, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, for Sammy Garcia, I'm Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.